Good morning and welcome to the last lecture of the semester. Today we're going to talk about law and ethics because we're working on web pages and a lot of the legal issues, particularly copyright, are really relevant to web pages, more so than when we're working on class projects and layouts. Anyway, so we'll get to that in a second. What our assignment is this week is the web pages. I've talked to a few of you already. They're looking pretty good. Feel free to send me drafts, and I'm happy to look at them and go back and forth. They're due midnight on Friday, and that will be that. Anyway, on to law and ethics. Publication law and ethics. Some things are legal issues, some things are ethical issues. Legal issues include copyright, libel, privacy, and obscenity. Ethical issues are a little fuzzier. A legal issue is something you could get sued for or even go to jail for. Ethical issues, the penalties are not as strong. Ethics are personal choices. They are things that you won't be sued for or go to jail for. Ethical issues are ones that are legal. So there's no ethics police out there. No one's going to stop you but you. Ethical issues include violence. There is no law against violence in America. There is in Europe. Diversity. Diversity is a choice that media people make. There is no diversity police out there. That's really up to you. What do you want to do about that? Other ones, taste, curse words. Broadcast is different. Broadcast, it's not about your free speech in a broadcast. It's about maintaining your broadcast license. Not everybody could be channel 13 or channel 7. So that is a privilege and not a right. And so they could regulate it more tightly. So some sexual stuff. Obscenity is when something's hardcore or you have somebody under 18, not good stuff. Truth. There is no law that says you have to tell the truth. There are laws that say you cannot commit fraud by your lies, but there is no law that says you have to be true. Lord knows we see that in social media. Some aspects of privacy. If you have access to private information, you might be able to post it, but if that posting of private information harms somebody, it is a lawsuit called intrusion. You cannot harm somebody with invasion of privacy. So this is the ones that come up in graphic design. Copyright is the first and biggest. Copyright is a right, the right of the creator of work to use that work for, I'll blow it up a little bigger. Use, display, it lasts for life and 70 years. If you are making a design, you have the right to control what happens to it. But if you're taking somebody else's work, if you're taking somebody else's writing, if you're taking somebody else's pictures or visual elements, then you're violating their copyright. It's a civil law, not a criminal law, so you have to sue them for copyright. There are, again, not a copyright police out there. You have to sue. Here's something to think about.
Here's an idea. You're not allowed to sing Happy Birthday. Happy Birthday is the Guinness Book of World Records holder for the most performed song ever. You've probably heard it more than all of those Justin Bieber, Katy Perry, Rihanna, and One Direction songs combined. Unless you work in the food court at the mall, in which case I'm very sorry. But for all the times your family and friends have sung an off-key happy birthday to you, or you've sung it to a friend in a crowded restaurant and they've turned bright red, there's probably a lot you don't know. Like, who wrote Happy Birthday and when? It was Patti and Mildred Hill in 1893. And that you're actually not allowed to perform it in public without licensing it, because despite being 119 years old, it's still protected by copyright. Wait, what? I know it's weird, but it kind of makes sense. Sort of. Let's talk about copyright for a second before we decide whether or not Happy Birthday should still be copywritten or copyrighted. Copywrote. Copyright is complex, but the aims are noble. One aim is to incentivize creators for making awesome junk, and to protect their awesome junk from people who want to copy their awesome junk but don't have.
You notice they talk about Metallica. There was a file sharing program about 15 years ago giving their music for free. Metallica sued and said, you should buy the album. You shouldn't be giving away, it was Napster, that was the name of it, Napster, the original file sharing service. They sued, and basically Metallica sued and basically won the right to control their own music. So, and for all intents and purposes, put Napster out of business. But Napster moved to Germany and they don't have to follow our laws. The bottom line is that as a result of this, we've set up the system in which you buy 99 cents a pop for music.
Have the right. That's where the name copyright comes from, actually. In order to copy something, you need to have that right, that copyright. Another aim is to provide a system by which those works end up available to the public, thus increasing the pool of freely available culture. Once a copyright expires, that once protected work is then in the public domain. Once a work like James Joyce's Ulysses or George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead is in the public domain, it's available to everybody. And not just everybody in the club, but like everybody. To remix, remake, alter, perform, go nuts. You could make a novelization of Night of the Living Ulysses, Space Rock Opera Ballet on Ice, the movie, and charge $45 for it. Or you could make awesome comics out of classic lit, link in the description. But once a work is in the public domain, it means the original creator doesn't profit as easily or in the same way from their creation anymore, which some people, some of whom have a lot of money and very much like their money, think isn't cool at all. Even a little. Not cool. Like, imagine if Barbie, Mickey, and Luke Skywalker were in the public domain. There go the revenue models of some majorly successful people and businesses. Not to mention someone would probably make some kind of like terrible Disney-fied Star Wars crossover. Huh?
See, Disney owns, of course, Mickey, but they also own Star Wars. They also own Marvel. And so you could do all sorts of stuff, mix and match. You have one script and cha-ching, it's a movie. Cha-ching, it's a TV show. Cha-ching, it's swag. You could do a lot of stuff if you own the copyright, which Disney does.
They did what? You have got to be kidding me. That is the stupidest.
And that is a Simpsons character from Matt Groening. The PBS producers of this little video paid Matt Groening for that.
To continually protect these creative works, in the US at least, we've been extending copyright terms, thus keeping these things out of the public domain. Historically, we focused more on their ownership and profitability than on adding to the pool of freely available culture. Originally only 14 years, copyright terms grew to 28, 56, and 75 years. Then life of the author plus 50 years, 70 years, 95 years, and in some cases, life of the author plus 120 years. For some perspective, if this had always been the case, you could could have been around for the annexation of the state of Texas, and the copyright on your banjo ditty would just about be expiring. Like Violet and the Chocolate Factory, copyright terms keep growing and growing and growing. Now, Happy Birthday isn't nearly as profitable as Mickey, but it is a beneficiary or victim, depending upon how you look at it, of the same system. Patty and Mildred Hill put some blood, sweat, and tears into Good Morning to All, the song which gives Happy Birthday its melody. They sold it to a publisher in 1893, who sold his business to another publisher, whose brother took over and then bought other publishers. At some point in here, Good Morning to All was given Happy Birthday's lyrics, and thanks to innumerable and mercurial cultural forces, it became the song we know and love. Happy Birthday. Not long after that, in the late 20th century, Happy Birthday's now much larger than it was in 1893 publisher sold for millions of dollars to the Warner Music Group, who still holds the copyright for Happy Birthday until 2030. That's right, the people who own the works for Dio, the Deftones, and Dragon Force own Happy Birthday until the year Ghost in the Shell standalone complex takes place. Happy Birthday rakes in $2 million a year for Warner, who at one point sought royalties for all public performance, including that by wait staff at restaurants like Red Lobster.
Yep, Red Lobster actually pays Warner Music to allow them to sing Happy Birthday badly at their restaurants.
Which feels just icky. Holding a 100-year-old piece of much beloved and shared culture hostage for something like 0.1% of your annual revenue? HBD has certainly come a long way.
Childish Gambino there, he's a big star now.
Since that kindergarten classroom in the 1890s. The history and legality of this whole thing is complicated and really interesting, but Happy Birthday seems to indicate that maybe we've tilted towards one of copyright's two original aims. If you want to know more, there's a really great paper by Robert Brown Eyes about Happy Birthday and copyright, link in the description. But the essential argument is this. At the point that ASCAP was shaking down Outback Steakhouse for protection money like some sort of chain restaurant mafia, were Mildred or Patty or anyone even related to them benefiting at all? And furthermore, is the fact that Happy Birthday is still protected stifling culture in some way? If the purpose of copyright is to incentivize creators while at the same time ensuring that at some point all culture is available, is it militaristic in one way and all loosey-goosey in another way? Or is it all gravy? I mean, nothing should be more aggressively protected than the creative work that comes from your soul. Right? Not to mention when someone makes bank at a hedge fund, they don't have to spend their paycheck within 14 years before it becomes a public resource. Just because something is a piece of culture, does that mean we have to treat it differently? Allowed at some point to be consumed or performed by everybody, even and maybe especially the staff at Red Lobster? What do you guys think? Should Happy Birthday be protected by copyright? Let us know in the comments. And
But it is. That probably didn't clarify too much, but it shows you what a sticky thing copyright can be. Bottom line, if you make it originally, you get to control it. If you're taking somebody else's work, then you need permission of the person who owns the copyright. To qualify, work must be original and recognizably original. If I take a picture of Chamberlain Field, anybody could do that. So that's not copyrightable. It needs to be recognizably original. Must be used professionally to prove value, and copyright is automatic. You don't need that little copyright symbol. You can use that to prove you own the copyright, but it's automatic. You own the copyright to original and professional material. Registration, that little sign, is important if you think someone's gonna question it. On cutting and pasting, oop, lost that page. Cutting and pasting is, again, not that's illegal. Okay, public domain. Things that you can use. Public documents, expressions made in public. Someone says something at a meeting, you can record it, you can take it, you can use it. Information, news, facts, ideas, theories, and opinions, all public domain. Now, if you do a commentary and it's just you, that's copyrighted. You can't just take their video or their writing. You can take their ideas. You can say, aha, I agree with that. Facts, everybody owns the facts. Expired copyrights, fashion, classical music. Things not recognizable as original, things that have no value, items put in the public domain by copyright holders, like George Romero, who did Night of the Living Dead. And that's why we have so many zombie movies. You don't have to pay the owner. Web links, good for this project. You could link a page, and that's free because it brings them to the copyrighted material, but you can't steal their pictures. You can't steal their stories, their content, but you can link all you want. Another issue, libel. Libel is both, for something to be libelous, it's damaging somebody, must be both defamatory and false. Something that's false but doesn't hurt anybody, it's not libelous. Somebody, if something's hurtful and true, oh well, you know, you've got to live with it. Defenses against the libel suit: truth, fair comment, opinions, ideas are not libelous, but you have to know that, and the audience has to know that it is a, and the audience has to know that it's an opinion. Publication, false light's a problem. That's when somebody's depicted in a harmful context, such as a preacher walking in front of a sex shop. You take that video, that's false light, and you use it, you have committed libel. What's ethical is use a code of ethics. We have them for public relations people, photographers, the Society of Professional Journalists. They're guidelines. There is no ethics police, but they can help you decide whether you're doing things right or not. But there's no enforcement power, so that they can't, a code of ethics, a professional organization cannot stop unethical behavior. The audience helps you decide. If people don't like you using curse words, maybe it's unethical to do so. Your employer, what kind of place are you putting this material on? If it is like Vice News and they're used to being a little sketchy, that's one thing. But for Disney, no. Again, nature of publication. Is anybody harmed? Doesn't mean you shouldn't harm somebody or someone's feelings are hurt, but you need to ask about it. Does the audience know what's going on? That's a good question too. Okay, back to copyright. Copyrighted things, music, concerts, writing. Facts may be public, but the words that describe them are not. Images, drawings, commercial ideas, shows, movies, sporting events, software, hardware, inventions. Gray areas, copyright, where we don't know who owns the copyright, and they may or may not catch you. Unusual items, teal Tiffany boxes. Tiffany believes it owns that teal color because it denotes ownership. The view of an item if it represents a trademark. Non-commercial use of copyright. If you're doing it for you and your family and you're not making money off of it, you're not stealing. One exception, educational purposes. Stuff we do in class is between you and I, we're not stealing anything, but when you put your project online, anybody can see it, and you might be stealing that content. Protecting copyright, you have to sue for So a lot of people embed some sort of work or irregularity. Map makers put in fake roads to show that their material is copyrighted. Warnings, overall vigilance. Plagiarism, kind of, that's the ethical version of copyright. You can plagiarize. You won't go to jail for it, but you should. Plagiarism is the use of material without acknowledgement of original authorship, making your own work look original when it's not. It's, again, no laws against it, but we can penalize you in school. We can give you a lower grade. That's, again, not putting you in jail, but it is a penalty for doing something bad, like running a stop sign. So if there's any questions, say according to, or cite where your material comes from. Modern issues, corporate ownership. Who owns it? Google Images. Google is buying up all the images they can find, and they don't like you using their material. Google Maps. You download a Google map, they don't care unless you use it to make money, and then they may go after you. Again, it's hard to police it. Common licenses is when the owner of material, music, or images, or whatever, say you can only use it this once. But again, that license, you have to work it out with the copyright holder. Fair use. Again, is this material being used? Fair use usually means opinions, ideas, stuff that anybody sees anyway. International copyright, again, 1988, a lot of countries decided that they would honor each other's copyrights. One country that didn't is China. They download our stuff all the time and repackage it. And bottom line, lack of awareness. And that's what I'm trying to help you with today. So those are the ethical issues and legal issues. And that's pretty much the one thing I wanted to cover at the end. Think about that when you put the web pages together. I'll be around all week to answer your questions as we finish up the whole course. Thanks a lot for being here. It's been a bumpy ride for everybody, but it's been a pleasure working with you.